Mm. Hola, hello, bienvenidas, welcome. Comenzaremos en unos minutos. Estamos esperando a que llegue nuestro intérprete. Mientras tanto, empezaré presentándome. So we are waiting a few minutes for our interpreter to arrive. But in the meantime, I will begin by introducing myself. Soy Teresa Blumenstein y soy la coordinadora mundial de la Coalición de Religiosas y Religiosos por la Justicia, o JCoR, Puerto. Y JCoR es un grupo de 22 ONGs acreditadas para representar a congregaciones de hermanas, de hermanos y sacerdotes católicos ante las Naciones Unidas. I am Teresa Blumenstein, and I am the global coordinator of the Justice Coalition of Religious, which is also known as JCoR. And JCoR is a group of 22 NGOs who are accredited to represent Catholic sisters, brothers, and priests at the United Nations. Nos reunimos durante las 2 semanas que dura la Comisión de la ONU sobre la condición jurídica y social de la mujer, que es la conferencia anual de la ONU sobre la igualdad de género y empoderamiento de todas las mujeres y niñas. Cada año se selecciona un tema específico para esta conferencia. So we are gathering during these 2 weeks of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, which is the UN's annual conference on gender equity and the empowerment of all women and girls. And each year there is a specific theme that is selected for this conference. Y este año el tema es innovación, tecnología y educación digital. ¿Cómo promueven la igualdad de género? ¿Cómo están sirviendo las mujeres y las niñas como líderes en estas áreas? ¿De qué manera la tecnología a la innovación han aumentado realmente las desigualdades de género? So this year, our theme for the Commission on the Status of Women is innovation, technology, and education. So we ask ourselves, how do they promote gender equality? How are women and girls serving as leaders in this area? How have technology or innovation actually made gender inequalities greater? En nuestro tiempo juntos hoy, todos son bienvenidos a tener en cuenta este tema, pero no están limitadas a él de ninguna manera. Como ONG en la ONU, es parte de nuestro papel no solo responder a la ONU cuando nos piden aportaciones sobre temas específicos. También es nuestro papel dar forma a la agenda de la ONU, llamando la atención de los líderes de la ONU sobre los temas que nos parecen más preocupantes o importantes. In our time together today, all are welcome to take this theme into consideration, but you're not limited to it in any way. As NGOs at the UN, it is part of our role to not only respond to the UN when they ask for input on specific subjects, it is also our role to shape the UN's agenda by drawing the attention of UN leaders to the subjects that we find the most concerning or important. Por esta razón, los hemos invitado a considerar dos cuestiones más amplias para nuestro debate de hoy. So for this reason, we invite you to consider two broader questions for our discussion today. Y la primera es, ¿cuáles son las áreas de mayor preocupación para las mujeres y las niñas en su país o comunidad? Y la pregunta más amplia, próxima, es ¿de qué pequeñas victorias o avances hacia la igualdad de género ha sido testigo en su país o comunidad en los últimos años? So our two broader questions that we will consider together today are, what are the areas of deepest concern for women and girls in your country or community? And what small victories or progress toward gender equity have you witnessed in your country or community in recent years? Y ahora tenemos unos minutos para reflexión en estas cuestiones.
Que te vaya bien.
Ok, hemos tenido un fallo técnico al conectar a nuestro intérprete. Creo que debido al reciente cambio de hora en Norteamérica. Y de momento seguiremos compartiendo reflexiones y lo haremos lo mejor que podamos. So we've had a technical problem connecting our interpreter to the room, which I think is a result of the recent change of clocks in North America. So hopefully she will join us soon. But for now, in the meantime, we will proceed in sharing reflections and do the best we can. Y ahora invito a quien quiera compartir una reflexión a hacerlo. I invite whoever would like to share reflection to do so. Y nuestro intérprete ha llegado y estamos listos. Perfecto. Ana ha llegado y estamos listos para comenzar nuestro intercambio. Ana has arrived and we are ready to begin our exchange of perspectives. For those who want to participate in English, please find the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select English from the list. Y para escuchar el audio en español.
And those who want to listen to audio in Spanish, they just go to the lower part of the screen, click on the globe icon and
en la parte inferior de su
select Spanish from the language list that you will see.
Y luego
and if you don't see the globe icon, you just click on the three dots where it says more, and you will choose interpretation there.
Screen, click on the more button, then select interpretation and English. Okay, and hopefully everyone is now on the channel where they wish to be. So for those who just joined us in the last few minutes, we are here today to exchange ideas and reflections, responding to the two broad questions that you see on your screen, which are, what are the greatest areas of concern related to women and girls in your country or community? And what small victories or progress toward gender equality have you seen in your country or community in recent years? And since we are very few, that gives us the opportunity to also encounter one another in this way as conversation. So anyone who wishes to share an idea or a reflection is very welcome to do so. So of all who are with us, if anyone would like to begin with some of your thoughts from this reflection time, I invite you to share. Yes, please, Maricruz.
Voy a hablar en español. Bueno, yo soy Maricruz, vengo...
My name is Maricruz. I am from Mexico. I'm a religious of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And I believe that one of the biggest concerns we have in our country among women, no matter where we live in the country, is because I believe this idea is pretty common to the whole country, to the different regions, and to the different social contexts, is related to insecurity. We live in a very violent country, especially against women. And I think this is a big concern. And it's also a discrimination issue. Sometimes it's a very subtle discrimination. It is just a comment or a comment on the street. Someone calls something out. But it's also institutionalized somehow. And there are figures that reflect it. Figures related to physical aggressions and sexual abuse of women. And also there is a lack of female participation at all institutional levels. And of course, feminicides are very important. Maybe it's the most serious concern, and the official figure for them, it's very high. And so the dream and the desire of women would be to be equal in rights, that the women's rights would be recognized, and that we can, well, of course they are recognized on paper, but that we can live them in reality. And I believe this is the most important thing, or the most strong concern. And then we have other concerns like erasing social barriers, equal salary for everybody, but these are very specific topics. But the biggest concern, the generalized concern, is the insecurity. And this would be my answer to the first question. I don't know if my other colleagues want to add something there, or if I should answer the second question right away. So the advancement we have seen in our country is that the voices are being heard more loudly. For example, in the 8th of March, Women's Day marches in Mexico are big, not just in Mexico City, but also throughout the country. And this is something it's discussed and approached in media, in the gender equality becomes a topic that is more and more visible in society. And then, of course, there is a wider participation as well. This is another advancement, both in companies and in associations and in public instances as well, and bodies all throughout the country. But of course, we are far from the goal. But there are some advancements, and I could see them, although we are far from a full participation of women. But the trend is to more equality. And I see also that stereotypes are weaker now in the participation of women studying specific jobs like engineering, or this type of careers that were previously considered to be male, or architectures. We see more female architects in our country. So I believe this is an advancement, because years ago, this type of jobs were restricted to men. But still a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Maricruz. I hear many echoes of experience from your neighbor to the north as well. Very similar. And Clara Marina, would you like to share any of your reflections?
Buenos días, estoy en Honduras.
Good morning. I'm in Honduras. I belong to the congregation of Notre Dame. And to the first question, the largest concerns, I'm going to talk about my area, which is a quite rural area. And the biggest concern here as women is the high cost of life. Prices are very, very high, and most women have no income at all. Although they work, although we all work, but we don't have a remunerated job. So it's an unpaid job. We work at home, or we have caring jobs, but it's not paid. And so the high cost of life is a big concern. And another one, especially among young women, is that they were expelled from the country. The economic situation expelled them from the country. They needed to emigrate towards the north. And the third concern is institutional violence against women. You know that many women have been killed. There is a high number of assassinated women in the country. And there is also a big concern for the basic health services. We don't have a space where we can go with our female health concerns and be properly taken care of. Because when we go to the public health services, we get a recommendation, and then you have to go to the pharmacist, and you can't afford the drugs that they have recommended to you. So this is a big concern. And I believe this is briefly what concerns Honduran women. And then we have small successes as well. Of course, we've seen some advancement. There is more awareness of our being persons as well. We are equal to male, to the men. There is a highest percentage of girls who attend school, at least for basic education, maybe not for secondary, but for primary school. The number of girls attending primary school is higher. And there is a higher number of women participating in politics as well, and in different roles in the government. So we have more leaders now, more female leaders. And they constantly insist on women's issues, so that the awareness is higher now. And I believe technology is also it's something that needs to be improved for women in the country. But it is not just for women, it is a general challenge for the whole country. So I don't know if I can mention it only for women. Thank you.
Thank you also, Clara. You know, I heard during one of the events of this Commission on the Status of Women, a number that was very surprising to me, which was that they were speaking of the percentage of people in the world who have access to internet. And the percentage was 33% for women and girls, and 48% for men and boys. So with that gap in mind of 15 percentage points, I think it's very relevant and valid to speak of, you know, where there are technology challenges, like so many other areas of difficulty, we see that there's an even greater burden or an even greater inequality that's experienced by women and girls. But I also overall found both of those numbers a bit surprising and humbling, because it's become very easy to think that now most of the world is connected by internet, and most of the world is receiving, this flood of digital information. And in fact, not even half of men and boys are connected. We're still not past half, and women we're only at 1 in 3. So we really have a long way to go. And while our technological tools are beautiful and they are allowing this exchange now, and they make it possible for people to follow conversations at the UN from far corners of the world, we're far from really connecting everyone and reaching everyone, which shows there is still no substitute for presence in communities, not only for the purpose, of course, of speaking to people and knowing people, but also to be attentive to some of the needs and challenges that you both have been describing. These are stories that would be untold, and perspectives that would be missed if someone with the technology and the confidence and skills to use the technology was not also present in places where connection is difficult. So we have some more time to share if we like, since it's just this lovely intimate group of the 3 of us. So I wonder if either of you would like to say anything more specifically about technology, since it is our theme for the conference, about whether you see it as helpful to women and girls empowerment, or where you maybe see it presenting harm or holding them back, or maybe some of both. So if either of you would like to comment on that, I would love to hear your perspectives.
Yo creo que actualmente la tecnología nos ayuda a...
I believe that technology nowadays is helping us to move forward. It has improved communication, but also in other respects has made life easier. And of course, women need to have access and equal access to technology. And as you have mentioned, Teresa, there is still a big gap there. And I also believe that one of the fights was education. Clara Marina already mentioned that education for women at the different levels is always a challenge. And I believe that a possible risk would be that technology became something apart from that. I mean, we have a struggle for the basic rights like education, work, etc. And apparently technology is aside. It's not a basic need. And it is true that, of course, basic needs need to be covered first. But I believe that we should make this equal access to technology more visible for women and girls. Because in rural contexts, like Clara Marina's, for example, they are not so used to technology due to their previous inequality. And I see the possibility there that the gap becomes larger and larger, because it is true that women who live in a specific context, women who have covered their basic needs, they have a job, they have the education, and so they might need help to have an equal access to technology. But I don't like it when we consider technology like an added thing and not a basic thing, because these basic rights are affected by the lack of use of technology. And for example, technology is important also for health services and for education. And therefore, I believe it is important that we keep on insisting on that when we work on our basic rights as well. So I believe we have to change our perspective on it. And we need to focus on women. For example, when we talk about participation of women in public spaces, technology is also a factor there. And for me, participation in technology is an integral part. It's one of the aspects of our rights as women. Nevertheless, when we are in a survival situation, technology is used only as a means of escape. I see that most of our young girls only use technology to evade, as an evasion, to escape reality. And of course, I cannot pretend, I cannot generalize. I can only speak for the girls I work with. But I don't think they see technology as a means for education, for example. For them, it's only a distraction. It's a way of escaping reality. It is Facebook and TikTok and all these social media. And I do believe that these means could be used in a positive way. I participated in training on empowerment of women, and I was the only one from Honduras. And I realized that most of people there were Spanish speakers, but they lived in Spain or in the United States, and there were not many participants from Latin America. And for women, technology education is a challenge, and it is an important factor. And I am also realizing lately that the use of these platforms is very useful, also for the youth and for middle-aged women. And I feel that we can use these means to improve a lot and to move forward, because this is one of the areas that we should not forget about, because otherwise we will be set aside of technology advancement. And for us who live in this part of the globe, sometimes we are too focused on surviving, and then we have added challenges in technology.
You both make excellent points, I think, for good and bad. technology is definitely something powerful, is a strong force in our world that can be used for good or for ill. And for that reason, it's important that we are attentive to it and its role in our work and in the communities that we serve, and to help guide it in the direction of being a tool for good, and to be well-versed ourselves into maximizing the good that can come through technology, or the good that even that we can bring to technology to help shape it and to make it serve the common good and the needs of communities and the environment. It has such tremendous potential, but it needs human guidance still. Not everything can be artificially intelligent, or maybe we're meant to bring the heart to match the intelligence to help guide it. Is there anything further that either of you would be interested in sharing in response to each other, or any other thoughts that came to you during this time together today?
Yo no participé en la conferencia, no sé de qué se trató, ¿verdad? Pero o sea, me llama la atención.
I'm not participating in the conference, so I don't know exactly what they talked about there, but it drew my attention that maybe we should organize training programs for technology, focusing on young women, identifying what we are really detecting on the ground, because we sometimes talk about empowering women, but many women that have access to technology don't participate because they feel they are already empowered. And sometimes this is something that we could approach, how to capture people, how to focus really on the needs that technology is creating. So this is the new idea that is now in my mind. How can I identify the needs, the women's needs, to connect to our training programs, to our awareness programs, because there are infinite awareness programs, infinite training programs, all in technology platforms. And there is much information and very interesting courses. I attended a journalism course, for example, and it is a whole universe of information and courses, but there are so many women that could not attend and that are not able to attend because they don't have the technology access or the knowledge. And I'm speaking from my experience, of course. So now I am stable because I live in a city, and so I have a technology access. But if I was working in a small village, I would have no internet access. So how can we help this part of the population to have the appropriate access? So for me, it's important to detect what we really need in that respect. And after the needs detection, how can we act? Of course, this is what I keep for me, because Maricruz and me, we were both concerned about violence, gender violence. And I am asking myself now, how can we use technology against that? What could be our proposal? And because we have not talked about cyber violence, which is also an issue. And I haven't approached it because I don't have any experience in that respect, and it's a challenge for me as well. But I know it exists. I agree with Clara. We need to detect needs. And it is not only about technology capacitation, but it's also about how to face internet challenges like cyber bullying and cyber violence. And it's not only how to provide internet access to populations that have no access, but also how to have a good use of technology. Because technology can have very bad consequences. And I would like also to approach the topic of migrant women. For example, to write your asylum request in the United States, you need to do it online. And you know how difficult it can be, because you need to have an app that you have to download on your phone, mobile phone. So it reduces the chances of many people, because they need to have a cell phone, and they need to be able to download an app and to use the app, and they need internet access in their phones, etc. So this is another extra challenge. So we want to not only to provide, well, it is important to provide access to women and to girls, but also how to train them in a positive use of internet. For example, the number of hours, the time that every girl devotes to internet, it's another important topic. Not only the access to the basic tools, which is important as well. So young girls are very active if they have access, of course, but sometimes they don't know how to make a proper use of technology. So this is another big topic that we need to approach, to train them in the good use of technologies. I think new generations have a big ability with technology, but they need to learn how to use it, to put it to a good use.
Thank you. Yes, I think there is tremendous potential in, maybe you've heard, there's a term that's used sometimes in development conversations with regard to technology, which they call leapfrogging. Which, if you have ever seen the game of leapfrog, it's, one person standing behind the other and they jump over each other's backs like this. And so it's that image with technology. People are referring to how technology that has now was originally established in higher income parts of the world. The first generation of people have grappled with it and found all of its flaws, and found kind of its harmful effects. And now when that technology is reaching other regions for the first time, there is the possibility of avoiding some of those mistakes that were made in the first generation of that technology's use in other parts of the world. And I think the education you're describing could be one essential tool in terms of helping to avoid some of the harmful effects of the power of technology when one receives it for the first time, but to go in using it with information and guidance about how to stay safe while using it, how to be responsible in using it to keep others safe. That kind of consciousness that I can say my generation in the United States did not have. We were just kind of exploring and experimenting with the internet. It was a brand new toy, and no one really knew what it would become or what power it held. So many people have regrets and wish that they knew more when they started to use it. But now there's that possibility in communities where people will be using technological tools for the first time. We can kind of skip over those mistakes rather than repeating that harder phase of learning. So I think that's tremendous potential, the idea that you suggest. Well, I thank you both for being part of this conversation. It's always a pleasure to meet and learn from those who are not in my neighborhood, in my corner of the world. And I'm really grateful that you could offer your experiences and your insights to help guide the work that we do here at the United Nations and to better represent the experiences of your communities and all that you have learned in the process of serving the common good. So I will just invite us into a very, very brief word of closing prayer as we go forward from this conversation. God, we look around us and we see that we are surely standing in the eye of a storm. The road to a world of gender justice stretches out too long before us. And yet, surely there is no other way forward but to respond with humility, to love generously, to laugh out loud with delight in your presence, and to rejoice in the eye of this storm. Help us to blaze a clear path forward, especially for the women and girls who will follow us. Strengthen our hearts and our hands to do the work that hope requires. Amen. Well, thank you both once again. I hope the rest of your day is very good. And I look forward to seeing you again in a future call or maybe in person sometime.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Abrazos a cada una.
Muchos
incluyendo a Ana.
abrazos a ustedes.
Thank you very much. A big hug from all of us.
Gracias.
Thank you.